Minutes past 9 now.
Live from the New Scientist Labs, it's Janine Young with Wammo on Kiwi.
Joining us now from the New Scientist Labs in Melbourne City, it is Janine Young for another year back in 2010. Hello to you, Janine.
Hello, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you. A hot and steamy one there, I hear.
It's cooled down now, but the other night, yes, I'm sure it probably made news across the Tasman, but we had 37 degrees at midnight.
Oh, goodness.
It was 33 at 6:30 the next morning, and it was just unbearable.
That's impossible. No one should be expected to be able to live in that, surely.
What we said, have no fear, there were many grumpy, irritable and unhappy people. There was a stabbing down on Port Melbourne Beach because people were a bit hot and bothered.
People go crazy, don't they?
Yeah, so it's cooled down now. It's 15 degrees overnight, much more my style. I'm not built for this super, super hot weather.
All right, well, let's kick off with our first story for 2010. About space and how technologies developed for the space program are spinning off into, well, all our lives, our real lives.
Absolutely. Most people have heard the stories about Teflon being invented for space shields, and Velcro was used to keep items in place in zero gravity and the like. Turns out that's not true, by the way. They were actually existing products that NASA just popularised. I didn't know that before. But there's a team of people, space salesmen, if you like, who go to various organisations, companies and the like, who need technical solutions for various things and say, can we help? You know, is there something that we can do here? Example, they found a guy in Germany who runs experiments in wind tunnels and calculates aerodynamics and the like, and they went to him and they said, could some of his scientists and engineers take a little bit of time out to help them find a way of packing chips, crisps, into their packets faster?
Yeah.
And they did. They were able, through various aerodynamic tricks, if you like, using air pulses and that kind of thing, to be able to speed up the production line. And that makes a big difference to someone's bottom line when they're able to get more chips into packets more quickly. And you think to yourself, well, okay, that's pretty inane. But there's other things like a specific type of blood pump, for example, that there was a guy who actually underwent transplant surgery back in 1984 who was a NASA scientist, and he was able to work with the people who were doing the transplants and saying, well, you know, I know some people that can help, and they were able to invent a completely new blood pump based on the fuel pumping systems for the space shuttle.
So, I mean, because the one thing that people do criticise NASA for in the space missions around the world is that it just seems like a waste of money. Oh, why do we've got problems down here on Earth? Why do we want to be going out there? But this is positive news and shows that there are spin-offs. Absolutely,
and so that then means that some of these sorts of spin-offs are not going to happen as frequently if the space program's budgets are cut, and that is happening a lot at the moment. But small examples of other things that have in fact been useful. There's a sun protection suit for people who react really strongly to UV rays, sounds like me really, was developed based on spacesuit visors. That kind of thing has real practical uses, particularly if you have had a transplant. You become incredibly sun sensitive, and that kind of thing counts. You can find a flame-proof fabric, and a lightweight breathing system for astronauts has been used by firefighters down here on Earth. Even when things go horribly wrong. For example, most people would remember when the Hubble Space Telescope went up a number of years ago. It was actually a bit blind. It wasn't set up properly. A faulty, flawed mirror was blurring the images, and so they had to go put some spectacles on it. But that was going to be 3 years hence. So the scientists didn't want to wait that long. They became specialists in manipulating digital images, and they were able to create sharpening software that was taking some of the insignificant features that weren't going to mean anything, and thus they were able to get some gorgeous, beautiful, clear pictures. But that has had direct implications because a company in the United States has taken this and applied it to breast cancer screening.
And this has basically come out of public-private partnerships.
A lot of it has come out of taxpayers' money.
Yeah.
A A lot of it is just straight taxpayers' money. Yes, there are some private partnerships in there as well, but the whole idea is about milking as much out of these developments as you possibly can.
Yeah.
And it makes perfect sense to me. The fact that they're doing, around 24 of these technology transfers, which is a fancy name for saying that they're licensing the technology and changing it over and the like, they're doing 24 of these a year. Some of these are not insignificant transfers. They make a real difference to people's lives.
Absolutely. Let's move on to something completely different. Music and emotions, and what makes emotional music, well, emotional, I suppose.
Indeed. I think most of us would instinctively know that some songs are really quite happy. They make you feel good. My theme, for example, just now was very likely in a major key.
That's great, isn't it?
Yeah, I actually really like it. I don't have my own theme anywhere else, I've got to say, so I feel a bit special.
Yeah.
But things like Singing in the Rain, very happy. Da, 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 da. Very, I can't sing, I apologise to the people of New Zealand. is very happy and very bouncy. And for a long time, scientists have been looking at this. Music theorists have been wondering why this happens. And, of course, a nice bouncy tune indicates the way people talk when they're happy. You've got lots of rising tones and they move along at a pace. When you're not happy, you tend to move quite slowly and you're a bit morose. And everybody knows what it's like to listen to that kind of music. It's kind of these dirgy kind of tones. Another Brick in the Wall, the Pink Floyd song, that's written in a minor key. And why this has an effect on us, aside from the way that it's written, so the slow kind of thing, has been baffling people for a really long time.
Because it's got nothing to do with the lyrics themselves in these songs. It all does it, because it doesn't matter what language it's sung in.
Absolutely. You can still pick the tone of a song by its pace, but also the minor key in it. Often minor keys tend to have that kind of slightly twangy kind of, ooh, that doesn't quite sound or feel right. You feel music as much as you listen to it. And what they think now is that it's been driven largely by language. As I was saying, you can tell when someone is talking about a situation they're not very happy with. Their tone changes. They go very quiet. And again, the quietness is not relevant in this case. And they think the way people speak has influenced music. They tested this by asking some people who are American to read out passages about whether or not they're talking about winning the lottery, for example, or, their marriage falling apart. And they were then able to map that back to listening and looking at music from, say, Finnish folk tunes and Western classical melodies and the like. And they found that the tonal patterns of each matched. So people talk when they're unhappy in a minor key. And they haven't seen this before. It's the first time it's actually been noticed.
So the music is basically just imitating this?
Basically, yes. Something that has evolved through us, so when we're unhappy, we naturally take on this really odd tone. You can just tell by listening to someone, even in a cafe, for example, that they're not happy. You can hear it.
Yeah.
And that has directly been translated into music. And this goes across a number of cultures. It's not just Finnish and Western-style music. It also happens in Mandarin Chinese.
Yeah. Actually, I've found listening to some Mandarin Chinese music, a lot of it is in that key. A lot of sadness seems to be in that part of the world.
And the tonality through the language actually works as well. But the thing about things like Chinese and Indian music is that it's on a completely different system from what we're used to. So it always sounds... to a Western ear, it's a lot more difficult to listen to than, say, I don't know, Aqua.
Oh no, I think that's a bad example. I'd find that far more difficult to listen to.
Yes, I thought you might react to that. It's the first one that came into my head, but they were very happy and bouncy and cheerful and nauseating, really.
Yeah.
So, basically language appears to have shaped music, and this is the first time that this has been found. So, that's a nice, interesting observation.
It is. Well, fascinating to hear all about it, and thanks so much for coming back for 2010 and giving us the dish on the latest new science. Janine.
Back and raring to go.
All right, we'll talk to you next week.
See you later.
That is Janine Young, and you'll find those stories in the New Scientist magazine coming out next week.